Welcome back, gladiators, to another video. Today I've decided to rank every single creature found on the island map. Yes, all 104 creatures. I'm ranking them based on their usefulness in PvE, but I will touch a bit on their PvP qualities as well if there is something worth pointing out. You know how this goes, S tier is the best, D tier is trash. I might decide to make an extra tier if needed, and at the end I might move a few things around, since I'm going to try to rank them as much as I can within each rank as well. So without further ado, let's start the video, cause we got a long one. Oh my god, there are a lot. God damn it, what was I thinking? 104 dinos. Guys, this is gonna be extra difficult, so please, if you find this video entertaining, give it a like. Oh well, here goes nothing. Let's start with the Achatina. The snail goes into B tier. I think it's a good tame, but it's kind of annoying to tame with those veggie cakes. They do produce infinite cementing paste though, so again, definitely good, but not irreplaceable. The Aloe. Look, if I'm being honest, the Aloe is simply just a lesser version of the Rex. It's a level 67 saddle unlock, and in PvE, the blade is more or less useless, as it doesn't work on the bosses. In PvP, it's great, especially versus high quality saddles. But in PvE, the only time when this is actually useful is against Gigas, Karkars and Titanosaurs. But I'd argue there are better tames for taking those out. Plus, in my opinion, they are harder to tame and a lot harder to find compared to the Rex. I'm thinking top of C, maybe bottom of B for now, but we'll see if I decide to move it. Ammonite. Easy D tier, no questions asked. Ammonite Bile, who the hell uses pheromone darts in PvE? Their only purpose is to make your life a nightmare in the ocean and give you a few pearls. The anglerfish. This one is very annoying to tame, not gonna lie, but it's actually great at collecting silica pearls. It's collecting 5 times the amount you would get using your hands. In Ascended especially, silica pearl spawns have been reduced, so they're even better. But still, you can definitely get by without one, so I cannot justify it being higher than C tier. The Ankylosaurus. Easy S tier. Look, it's slow, it's chubby, but when that tail goes swoosh, here comes the shiny. Especially on the island, this thing is definitely irreplaceable. The Aranio. Borderline useless. You can use them for infinite bolas and torpor-inducing attacks, but they live in the caves. They're an aggressive creature with a passive taming and they have garbage stats. They're only good for getting chitin. D tier definitely. The Archaeopteryx, the original parachute/glider tame. I've literally never tamed one in my life. That's how unimportant these things are. But I guess I'd take a reusable parachute that can gather sap rather than a trash spider. D tier. The Argentavis. Definitely S tier. Look, you can pick up more with the Rhinognatha or the Quets, but the moment when you get your first Argentavis, that's really game changing. Suddenly you can use taming pens, you can go on resource runs, drop runs, you have a flyer with good stamina, health and damage. It doesn't get much better than that. Yep, easy top of S tier. The Arthropluera. Definitely better than those in D tier, but when it comes to PvE, I think the Angler is actually better. Bottom of the C tier for now, thanks to that reflect damage. The Baryonyx. Oof, this one's hard. The OG Mr. Versatility. Great on land, great on water, stun ability, prime fish meat collector, cave dino. It's either top of A or bottom of S, with my logic being that you can replace the Baryonyx with other dinos for its functionalities, but you can't replace the Anky with any other dino. We'll go top of A for now. Next, Basilosaurus. Definitely a good one, probably the best water tame on PvE, thanks to its immunity. You can't really use an army of them to clear the caves though, so you still need other underwater tames besides them. I think I'll go with B for now, above the snail and the aloe. Next, the Beelzebufo. Definitely another hard one. Great travel mount, great for cementing paste, good swimmer, torpor attacks. I think I'll have to go bottom of A tier for this one. It's more versatile than all of those in B tier. Brontosaurus, definitely not a must dino, but when your tribe goes big with a lot of dinos, this is definitely the way to go for berries. Plus you can get a platform saddle on it, but they're super slow. See, I guess, don't kill me. The Carbonamis, in PvP it might have some uses as a soaker, but in PvE its best use is as food for the Tuzotoothless. Bottom of C tier at best. Okay, the Carnotaurus. I might be biased with this one, but I have this higher than Yellow. The saddle is unlocked like 20 levels earlier, when you might actually have some use for such a dino. And they're not even that much weaker compared to the Yellow. Sure, they don't have a pack boost and they're much worse against bosses, but again, at that point I might as well go for the Rex. Simply because you can get it much earlier makes it much better in my opinion. At that stage of the game, even on PvE, the bleed is an important thing. It's one of the first dinos that you can actually hunt alphas with, in my opinion. And you can knock out one even with bow and arrows. It has 3 times less torpor than an aloe. And it has a very good knockback. Yeah, the more I think, the more it makes sense to me, definitely high on the B tier. Moving on, the Beaver. There are a few good wood gathering dinos. This one's other advantages are the Smithy saddle and the swim speed. But the Smithy saddle is pretty much pointless since you kind of have to pair it with the Argent, but you know, still good. Probably near the bottom of B tier. The Chalicotherium. This one is tough. It's an underrated dino, but that taming method, it takes too much time. A lot of people, by the time they have beer set up, they don't need a Chelly anymore. If you can get one early game, yeah, it's borderline A tier. But considering the taming method and the amount of people that tame these guys, yeah, top of C. At least nowadays you don't need the pipes to place the beer barrels. Oh my god, the Cnidaria. They're super annoying to find in the water, and their number has been reduced in Ascended, but that also means less biotoxin. I don't know, I think middle of C tier since it's not entirely useless. Somewhere around here, I guess. The Coelacanth, the absolute most worthless fish in the game. You cannot get prime fish meat off of it, they give pretty basic loot when fished. I guess it's D tier for them. The hell is this? Is this the Gallimimus? Oh no, it's the Compy. Oh, annoying, useless, bottom of the list, definitely. The Carcharodontosaurus. God, I love this one. Honestly, in PvE, these guys can do anything a Giga can, but better. And they can even enter the Tech Cave. Plus, they are my #1 pick when it comes to collecting Giga Hearts. Huge damage, huge health, great mobility, definitely a great tame, but not a required one. If you could bring just one in the Overseer fight, straight to the top of S tier. But as things stand now in PvE, I'll give it top of A tier. By the way, in PvP this thing is definitely S tier. The Daedon. It definitely has some uses, you can even use it as a cave dino. I feel like because of that heal ability, people only see it as a medical dino. But with 900 base health, 400 base weight and 29 base damage, this thing is one hell of a daily driver. Middle of B tier. Oh, the Dilophosaurus, basically the Compy plus. Straight garbage, they like to spit on your face and the only thing these guys can kill are Lystros and Dodos. D tier. The Dimetrodon. Look, they can only do one thing, but they can do it so damn well. One Dimetrodon can do the job of like 8, maybe 10 AC units. They are hard to keep knocked out and they spawn in the swamp, but they are still the best at what they do. So I think it's C tier for them, which so far looks like the category for the dinos specialized in one thing. The Dimorphodon. Probably one of the better shoulder pets on the island. These things in a group can take down alphas. They're much better in PvP since they're specialized in hunting survivors, but even with PvE in mind, they can sit in the C tier. The Diplocolus, one of the forgotten dinos of Ark. I think in Ascended they're no longer targeted by basically all the other creatures of the swamp, but I'm not completely sure. They do have one very good use. and that is to hunt deep sea silica pearls. They give you oxygen and they're super fast, so you can deep dive super early. Again, C tier above the angler. Oh god, the Diplodocus, the freaking boss of Ark. Look guys, it pains me to say this, but this one is absolutely useless in PvE. Yes, it's fast for a sauropod and it can transport lots of things from A to B, so I don't know, I guess you can start a trading route with other players. If only they would have given the Diplo a platform saddle, even a 2x2 just to smell metal on the mountain. I haven't tried the platform cart since they do not spawn on scorched earth, but maybe that can save them. But without it, D tier. Next, the dire bear. Oh, I love this one. They're super versatile, they can gather honey like no other, they're a great day-to-day mount, they're just solid overall. I like them more than the Carno, but they're way harder to tame, so B tier behind the Carno. The dire wolf is a hard one. They're easy to tame, but their environment is super dangerous. They're a glass cannon type of dino that requires a pack, and I really don't know for this one, so I'm throwing it behind the Allo for now. Maybe I can put it ahead of the Allo since they have that ability to find explorer nodes. Next we have the, oh yes, the almighty Dodo. Compared to the Compy or the Dillo, this one is worth taming in the early game for its eggs. Plus, I bet there is no sight that makes a beach bob happier than a dodo to get the meat and hide to survive another day. Bottom of B tier. The Doedicurus is an interesting one. So far, I've put one important resource collector in B and one in S. So where does this one go? Well, I think stone is a bit more important than wood, and the Doedic has better weight reduction, so not B tier. But I cannot put the Doedic in the same tier as the Anki, since that one is the top collector for several important resources. Well, A tier it is. The dung beetle is actually crazy good for what it requires. You're taming these things with feces, and they turn feces into fertilizer and oil. That's crazy, and they're just as useful at any given level. In my opinion, even though there are other ways to these resources, the dung beetle is S tier. The Dunkleostus, it's good. It can gather resources, but unfortunately there aren't too many underwater metal nodes. Especially considering how hard it is to tame one, I think it's somewhere in the middle of C tier for this one. The Electrophorus, straight up useless in PvE. PvP, it's another story where a huge burst of damage from a pack of eels could kill some riders, but in PvE, bottom of D tier, even below the compies. Next, the Equus. Oh, this one is a tough one, but for completely other reasons compared to the other tough creatures that I've already ranked. The horse is an amazing tame. It can help you tame dinos, it can collect berries, it can work with and without a saddle, it has a cool taming process, the saddle acts as a mortar and pestle, you get to use a lasso. Honestly, it is a borderline A tier dino. I would definitely put this thing in A tier if we were on Ragnarok or Fjordur. But we're talking about the island, and here they're extremely hard to find and tame safely. Most of the times I see them just before being eaten by an Allo or a Rex. So unfortunately it's the rear end of B tier for the horse. Next, the Eurypterid. Another untamable. This one I'm actually glad whenever I meet one, since that means I'm guaranteed to get some pearls. C tier, probably below the Nidaria. The Gallimimus. Look, I know this thing has some fans, but I'm not putting it higher than C tier for being crazy fast on land. But even that is a stretch considering how hard to tame and useless this thing is in PvE. The giant bee. Honey is pretty important in Ark, regardless of settings. And you really need some domesticated bees if you want a steady supply of veggie cakes. I think this one goes to the top of C tier. The Giga. Where do I even start? Besides getting an achievement, the only thing they can substantially do better than other dinos is killing Titan. I shouldn't have eaten walnut chocolate before this video. Okay, the only thing they can do substantially better than other dinos is killing Titanosaur and other Gigas or Kargars, and that is if you breed and imprint them. Well, I'm gonna be a bit controversial and I'm gonna throw this thing in C tier, behind the B. In PvP, they're going to S tier, definitely, but in PvE, you literally have no use for them. Plus, they take a metric ton of narcotics to knock out. Next is the Gigantopithecus. This one is another hard one. I think it's really good, it has great stats, good for caving, it does take a bit to tame one, but overall is a decent day-to-day tame. Plus, you only need level 30 to tame and ride this one. I'm thinking B tier behind the Dire Bear. For PvP, I would probably put this one higher thanks to its abilities, but for PvE, I think here is fine. This one I think is the Gigantoraptor. I haven't tested this one too much, but I think there's a lot of potential with its buffs that can be leveraged in PvP and PvE as well, since they can enter boss arenas and fill a role similar to the UT as a buffing dino. Plus they help you grow babies, which is awesome. I'm gonna put this in A tier, since again I haven't tested this one too much. So tell me in the comments, where would you put this bad boy? However, while the Gigantoraptor ended up in A tier, these two new emotes definitely belong in S tier. These are the two new Scorched Earth themed emotes that I was talking about in a previous video, made by Blue Glue, the guy that worked on the new graphic art for the channel. If you're in need of emotes, icons, banners, video editing, or basically any type of graphic work, Blue Glue is your guy. I highly recommend checking out his Fiverr page if you want to see more of his work or contact him. He's a master in his field, and I can easily recommend him to you. Link in the description. Next is the Hesperornis. Very annoying to tame, they do lay some good eggs though, so if you can make a geese farm with them, they might be worth it. I don't know, they still haven't used though, so bottom of C tier. The Pteranodon. These things are heavily underappreciated. They're cute as hell, they have a nice pack bonus, and they have an insane buff. Plus, unlike the direwolves, they can wear armor. They're much more annoying to tame though, and I think that's the main problem with them. And the fact that they spawn in the worst possible places. But if you do get a pack, you've got some animals that, if leveled up correctly, can clear the snow cave. Because these things regenerate whenever they kill something, just like wild dinos. I think they deserve at least B tier, behind the Equus. Oh, come on, is that freaking seagull? The Ichthyornis, yeah? Has this been fixed in Ascended yet? If yes, unfortunately I cannot put them in D tier, because it helps you get prime meat and prime fish meat. So yeah, not entirely useless. C tier behind the Eurypterid. This one is the Ichthyosaurus, one of the better aquatic tames. It's super fast and allows the use of weapons from its back, being the perfect ride when you want to tame something in the Great Ocean. Middle of B tier. Okay, next is the Iguanodon, definitely one of the better tames on the island. Great traveler, berry collector, seed converter, infinite sprint speed, and super easy to tame. I think top of B tier is perfect for the Iguanodon. Now what the hell are those? Oh, it's the Kairukus, right? Okay, these guys are like a dodo but much better. These are the animals that you should have on a farm. They lay lots of eggs. If you live in the snow biome, they can warm you up, and they drop off organic polymer. Having a farm of these guys is definitely worth it. B tier. Okay, I think I'll have to move the Equus above these two. Next we have the Capro. Everybody hates this one. Nobody tames it. It's basically the least impressive out of the three medium-sized carnivores of the swamp, and once again has a kit that is better suited for PvP, with a dismounting jump and a stamina draining attack. But for PvE, it's just a worse version of the Baryonyx. C tier. The Kentrosaurus. These things were once a complete menace, but nowadays they're pretty much pointless. I tried an army of them against the Megapithecus and they got crushed. In PvP, there might still be a use for them, maybe helping you enrage enemy gigas or simply scattered around to defend your base. But in PvE, it feels like D tier. The Leech. Absolutely horrible creature, but that leech blood used in lesser antidotes makes caving a lot easier. I guess behind the Eurypterid, we got the big fish now, the Lidzichthys. Probably the easiest way to prime fish meat for taming that dope Spino that you've been craving. Other than that, a pain in the ass for early raft bobs, so bottom of C tier. The Pteranodon. Look, I hate temporary tames, and this one requires honey as well, as a water mount. That buff, however, might be worth it, even though having high quality gear is much more important in PvP. C tier. The Listro. Easy to tame, does nothing 80% of the time, gives an XP boost around if you pet it. It's a great early game hide source, so bottom of C tier. Okay, finally a good creature. The Mammoth, my favorite wood collector. I prefer these guys because they can collect fast and carry a lot. Also great for facing most threats in the north. And if Wildcard finally fixes their hitbox, they will even regain their title as boss dinos. Bottom of A tier. The Manta. Annoying, hard to tame, terrible stats, but super damn fast. Basically the Gallimimus of the ocean, but with a decent bite. Bottom of C tier. The Megalania. An interesting tame, but very hard to find, because it only lives inside caves. And guess what? Its main use is caving. You will only need its trophy for the boss fights, so I don't know, C tier I guess? Here? Moving on, the Megaloceros. The females, absolutely useless. Total trash. The males though, pretty good at gathering thatch, very fast moving and great for caving, thanks to that huge AoE on its attack. B tier, near the Equus. The Megalodon. Still underrated, one of the best pack dinos in the game, especially since packs are easier to control underwater. Insane DPS capabilities and bleed damage. Definitely my #1 pick for clearing the underwater caves and gathering trophies. So, top of B tier, close to the Basilosaurus. The Megalosaurus, sorry but simply not worth it. You only get a dino at full strength during the night and it's pretty hard to tame. Very strong, capable of beating bosses, but not worth it in my opinion. It's borderline C tier for me. This one's the Meganeura, stupid bug, easy to kill, easy source of chitin, C tier. Speaking of chitin, the Megatherium. Oof, this one is hard. Great collector, boss dino, good in PvP as well. That insect killer buff is just insane. Top of A tier. Nothing farms the broodmother for element like this one. Next, the Mesopithecus. Not much use for its ability to unlock other doors in PvE, but it might still save you from death with its slow inducing attack. Still D tier in my opinion. The Microraptor. This one deserves to burn in hell. Might be worth it to stun some opponents in PvP, but in PvE, this is completely useless. D tier. The Mosasaur. Platform saddle, insane health, insane damage, super fast, perfect for hunting down creatures for trophies, but cannot actually access the artifact room in the Eastern Caverns. It's super hard to tame as it takes a ton of tranquilizers to knock out, but in the end, in PvE, there is nothing this one can do that others cannot do in my opinion. The platform saddle and its sheer strength have much more use in PvP. B tier for this one. And I'm also moving the Kairuku and the Dodo to the bottom of B tier. Next we have the Mosschops, one of the best resource collectors in the game, and pretty good at dealing damage in the early game, if you're riding it. Definitely worth taming, B tier. The Onyx. This is the Microraptor all over again. In PvP, you might actually want to have some guarding your base, but in PvE, just kill them on sight. Don't even bother, D tier. Now this is a shoulder pad, probably the best on the island. And if you want to live in the snow biome, the Otter is definitely an absolute must. S tier for the island. The Oviraptor, pretty decent since it has been buffed in ASA. You can definitely get by without it, but this will probably increase your kibble production in a big way. Plus, it's easy to tame since you can get a low level one. Probably near the giant bee is where it should sit. The Ovis gives you wool to make fur clothes and mutton to tame carnivores fast. I see it as the endgame dodo. So, bottom of B tier. Oh my god. It's the Packy. If you've been following the channel, you probably know this is one of my least favorite creatures. It's small, weak, slow, but its attacks induce a lot of torpor, which is good, since if you carry a bow and 10 arrows, this thing will be encumbered. Bottom of C tier. The Pachyrhino. This is a lesser, harder to tame version of the trike, but instead of the charge you get calming pheromones and rage pheromones. Look, it's not completely useless in PvE, and I see some defensive uses in early game for this, but I cannot justify anything higher than C tier. The Parasaurtherium. I've recently played with this dino, and honestly, if you want a mobile base, this one is pretty good. Sure, you cannot build a lot on its back, but it's pretty fast and has decent stamina consumption. It can fend off most dangers and can carry a ton. Might be the best dino to have fun as a nomad on the island, middle of B tier. The Parasaur, probably the first dino you tame in a playthrough. He's not fast, but he can collect lots of berries, can carry a lot of resources, and can even scare some deadly predators, like the raptors. I think bottom of B tier near the Dodo and Kairuku is good enough. The Pegomastax. D tier, no explanations, D tier. The Pelagornis. I guess it's a flyer, so that's good. It can land on water, so that's okay, I guess. And probably the best thing is that you can fish off its back. Thing is, by the time you can ride the Pelagornis, you already have a Pteranodon. So, C tier, I guess, behind the Capro. The Phiomia, the poop machine. I mean, it's an easy tame, stupid. Yeah, look, its ability is to shit a lot, and almost all creatures in the game can do that. So yeah, D tier. They can't even gather berries, damn it. Okay, Piranha. Hate them, no prime fish meat from them, D tier. Easy. The Plesiosaurus. Honestly, an underrated underwater creature. A lot of people think they're bad, but in truth, they're just a Mosa light. They're super fast, they have good weight, damage, and a platform saddle. The only thing that they have better than a Mosa is the fact that they're easier to tame and it's easier to find a good one. I think I'm gonna keep this dynamic and rank the Plesio just under the Mosa in B tier. The Procoptodon. Oh man. This guy suffers from the same syndrome as the Equus. Super hard to find, and when you find it, is more or less already dead. As a mount is awesome. No fall damage, fast, insane jump ability, but if you cannot find one, it's pointless. B tier. Next we have the Pteranodon. If I would have to choose a single creature that completely changes the way you play the game, this would be it. The ability to fly opens so many possibilities in the game, and the Pteranodon is not only the first, but also the fastest flyer on the island. And this thing is even useful in PvP scenarios. So yeah, top of S tier definitely. The Pulmonoscorpius. I'm gonna be honest, I'm never taming these in my playthroughs, but that doesn't mean it's useless. I mean, it is, but it can theoretically knock out other dinos. I'm thinking borderline A tier, just kidding, bottom of C tier. The Purlovia. For as long as I've played Ark, I've always wondered why the hell you cannot ride these things. Yeah, they're useless in PvE. In PvP you can use them as hidden base defense, but in PvE, don't even bother with them. D tier. The Quetz. The once almighty king of the sky. This thing has been nerfed a few times in the past. But even though its speed is nothing to write home about, a flying mobile base with a ton of weight, stamina, and the ability to pick up dinos up to the size of the Stego is definitely a good dino. If only they were easier to find and tame. A tier for the Quetz. The Raptor. The Raptor's biggest advantage is that you can ride it early, but in all honesty, its stats are not looking great. But it's fast and it can be of good use in the early game. I guess B tier is okay for it. Maybe above the Procoptodon. Oh yeah, the good old Rex, the dinosaur all survivors strive for. This is the ultimate boss dino and element farmer on the island. The Rex is an awesome dino, no questions asked. But is it really an S tier? In PvP, absolutely. But PvE doesn't have those crazy battles between player armies. And as a day-to-day mount or trophy hunter, is not exactly the best. And even when it comes to boss fighting, there are other dinos that can replace the Rex. I think top of A tier is where this bad boy belongs. Now here we have an S tier creature, the Rhydiognatha. This is like the Argent Plus, having better health, damage, speed and abilities. It can carry a freaking Rex, and it can dive underwater. This thing is just bonkers. but it's very hard to get, so I'll have to put it closer to the bottom of S tier. Saber-tooth salmon, the only regular fish that is actually useful, since it can drop prime fish meat, and this is the one that you have to catch when fishing for that super good loot, C tier. The saber-tooth. This thing is like the Raptor Plus, and is very similar with the direwolf, but this one is much better as a day-to-day mount, thanks to its saddle and reduced fall damage. Plus, it's an exceptional hide gatherer, so upper B tier seems like a good placement. My god, how many do we have left, cause I'm running out of voice. Here comes my boy, the Sarco. Thank god they have fixed its attack. One of the best water traveling mounts. Decent damage, decent health, increased attack speed in water, insane movement speed and stamina in water. I really love this one, but I simply cannot justify putting it higher than B tier, mostly because the baryonyx exists. And the ultimate amphibious creature, the Spinosaurus. All my fellow Chad Spino enjoyers, hit that like button for me. Definitely one of the best dinos available on the island. Great for trophy hunting, traveling, meat gathering, even caving, since this is a great swimmer and boss fighter. For PvE, this is the only large carnivorous land dino that you need. It can take care of 2 out of 4 boss fights. It can kill gigas and cars if used as an army. It's just so damn good. In my opinion, it manages to move itself to the S tier rank in PvE. Moving on, the Stego. Definitely a great early game tame, can gather berries, wood and thatch very efficiently and has weight reduction on berries. It's able to deal with most dangers in the early game and is even capable of boss fighting thanks to its natural damage reduction. That last part makes the Stego a borderline A tier dino. The Tapeyara is a slower but beefier version of the Pteranodon. I'd say it is better, but they're way harder to find, so B tier for the Tapi. The Terror Bird. This is kind of another raptor variation, but this one trades firepower and health compared to other tames in its weight class for the ability to kind of glide. Yeah, not really useful in any kind of game mode, at least it can gather prime meat and run fast. C tier. Oh, and I'm also moving the Scorpion ahead of the Pachy. The Therizinosaurus. I'm gonna keep it simple, king of versatility and the ultimate boss killer. Definitely S tier. Next we have the Thylacoleo, one of the best land mounts in the game. It's strong, can jump high, can climb, can 1v1 any land dino in the game, yes, including the Titanosaur. Unfortunately, not much of a caving dino these days, unless you're placing cryofridges at the entrance of the cave, but still, a very good mount. A tier. By the way, I'm not talking about the current buggy version of the Thyla, I'm talking about the one that can actually jump. Titanoboa, I swear to god, this is one of the most disappointing creatures in all of art. D tier. No questions, this is the only creature that would have deserved an F tier, but the fact that it is an easy source of prime meat saved it. Titanomiras, same shit as the Meganeura, bottom of C tier. The Titanosaur, the walking natural disaster. If your server doesn't have feeding the Titanosaur allowed, this is D tier. But if it is, I'll give it a B for bragging rights and for being the best platform dino. PvP, it's a completely different story, probably S tier in that one. The Trike. It's similar to the Stego in some way, usually those who don't have Trikes have Stegos and vice versa. But admittedly, it is a downgrade to the Stego, since it cannot efficiently gather wood and has no endgame use. B tier for being a Bob's best friend in the early game. The Trilobite, a better version of the Dodo since you can get some rare resources from it. B tier. Troodon, absolutely garbage, do not tame this one in PvE, waste of time, tames and resources. D tier. I'm gonna put this even lower than the Titanoboa since this one doesn't even give prime meat. Next we have the Tuzoteuthis, the ultimate water tame in Ark, but with limited usefulness in PvE, since the only reason you go into water is for the caverns, some rare resources and deep sea loot drops. The Tuzo can help you with at least 2 of those, and can also help you tame other aquatic creatures like the Mosa, but for strictly PvE usage, B tier, below the Mosa. Again, PvP is a completely different story. The Woolly Rhino, I absolutely love this one. It has some boss fighting capabilities and is a good herbivore when it comes to stats. It's even great at collecting trophies or taking down alphas. However, the island is definitely not their best map, and people can make use of their charge mechanic much more in PvP, probably lower on the B tier. And the last dinosaur native to the island, the Eutyrannus. Stats comparable to Rex, paired with much better movement and the highest quality eggs in the game. This is the dino to lead and buff your army in boss fights. And you should always bring one in boss battles. S tier. And we're done. Oh my god. Finally, this took ages, man. Do I want to change anything? Probably the R throw seems too high, so I'm dropping it closer to the end of C tier. The Elo is also kind of a weird spot, but I'm gonna let it there. And yeah, I think this works for me. Yep, from a PvE point of view, I think I got a pretty good ranking. But you know the drill. Tell me in the comments below your opinion. Do you want me to make one for Scorched Earth as well? If you enjoyed the video and appreciate the effort, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Until next time, Spartacus out.